I don't know where to start from here, so I guess I'll just start off by saying what happened at the end of 2017. I was a new student at a small school in November of 2017. The size was around 50 kids in total. Yeah, I know, small, right? The reason I went there was because the things I was learning in that old school were just way too advanced for me. I had to transition into a school where the work was way easier and where I could focus better. It's called the Smith School, and it's based in New York City. It used to be a school for kids who had a criminal history. Now it's changed into a school with kids who have special needs. I was only there for almost a full year, and then I transferred into a bigger school. I was pretty much friends with everyone at that school because the school was so small. I even ended up dating a guy. His name was Kyle Fernandez. I believe that I had started dating him in February or March of 2018. The reason why he went to the Smith School was because he got kicked out from his previous school due to selling weed to other students at that school, and one person ended up telling on him. The first 2 to 3 months of dating him, he was pretty nice to me and to the people that went to our school. But at the same time, he was also high on drugs for most of the time. I never smoked weed, and I never will. Kyle would also sometimes take me to hang out with his outside school friends. They were also a lot like him, smoking and selling weed and have their pants sag, which would reveal their underwear. It was so eye-burning to see that crap, but Kyle loved me and I loved him. While Kyle and his friends would do that stuff that would get them in trouble, I would stay out of it. And to my miracle, Kyle never pressured me to join along with them. A few more months went on and her relationship would stay the same until one day in July where everything changed. On that day, Kyle came over to my place at nighttime. For an hour, we were just chatting in my bedroom until my phone kept going off. It was a bunch of text messages from my friend Liam. I opened iMessage and I saw that he sent me a bunch of edgy but funny memes. I started laughing pretty hard. And then Kyle asked me, "Who's texting you?" I told him that it was just my friend Liam. He then asked me if he could see the text. I then responded by saying, "Please, it's really nothing. He's a longtime friend who makes me laugh all the time." Kyle then got really upset with me and then demanded to look at my phone. My smile then slowly faded away. I now felt a little skittish. I then muttered the word, "No." Take a guess on what happens next. I think you know. What Kyle did after I told him no was that he grabbed my phone and then threw it to the wall. Glass went everywhere, to the floor, the lamp, the top of my drawer, and on my bed. I was in disbelief with what just happened. As a reaction to what Kyle just did, I put my arms up to my face because I didn't know what he would do next. I then felt his hand grab my left arm, and then he did something that made me really change how I saw him as a person. I saw glass from my phone in his hand, and before I could even say anything or move, Kyle plunged the glass right into my arm so fast and then took it out 2 seconds later. I then screamed. I screamed so loud that probably Africa itself could even hear me. As I was still screaming, Kyle then screamed at me, "Are you happy now?" And then he ran out of my room and out of my apartment. I really wish my mother was home, but of course she wasn't. I then ran right into my bathroom and washed the stab wound with soap and water. It was hurting like hell when I did that. I then got a humongous bandage and put it on my left arm. After doing that, I went back to my phone, took the shattered screen protector off, and then proceeded to block Kyle on everything. If he tries to come and see me again, I will make it clear that I never want to see him again. To my shock, he actually never came to my house again, and I never saw him on the streets again either. But I did look around my surroundings to be safe, and indeed I was. I kept what Kyle did to me a secret, and when everyone asked what happened between me and Kyle, I just said, our relationship was just not really going in the right direction. Everyone actually seemed to believe me. I didn't let anybody know what the real reason was, because I was just too scared. But me being scared all changed because of something that happened in the summer of 2023. It was early August of 2023. I was at work that day, and while working, I had felt my phone vibrating in my pocket. I took my phone out of my pocket to see who was calling me, and it was a 212 number. For the people that don't know, 212 is an area code number that is the home code in New York City. It wasn't my home phone because I knew my home phone number. I was curious to see what company was calling me, so I picked up the phone and said, "Hello?" I heard a woman on the line asking if this was me. I just replied back saying, "Yes, that's me. Who is this?" I then heard the woman say, "This is the 42nd Street New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center calling, and I'm here to inform you that your mother along with 10 people have been hit by a car, and she's in critical condition." As I heard this, I felt my hand shaking while holding the phone. I tried staying in composure and then said, "I'll be there right away." I ran out of my workplace so fast without telling anyone where I was going and what happened. I got to the hospital in about 10 to 15 minutes. I asked where my mom was, and a woman at the front desk said that she was in a room right down the hall. I ran over to that room, and when I got to that room, I saw that she was in a coma. I sat down next to her crying like I've never cried before in my life. A nurse came in, and I asked her for the details of that incident. A nurse then said that a man stole a car while intoxicated, and he drove onto a wrong-way street and then onto a sidewalk, striking a cyclist at first, and then he hit a woman, which is your mom, and about 5 others, and they all just flew into each other. I was so taken back hearing this that I asked if they found out the guy's name yet. The nurse then said, "We don't know yet, but we'll probably get an answer tomorrow." The next day then came, and there was amazing news and life-shattering news. I'll start off with the good news first. The good news was that my mom woke up. The bad news is that the person who drove that vehicle that hit my mother and 6 other people was someone who I knew very well. It was Kyle. I was in such incredulity. I was going to make sure that he was not going to get away with this. Thank God he got tackled by some good Samaritans in the street, and the police have him in custody. I wanted to scream so badly, but I would just be humiliating myself by doing that. Another part about the bad news is that a couple of days later, I would find out that my mother would never be able to walk again. I felt as if my own life was over. When this news story broke out all around the country, everyone thought this was a terrorist attack. They thought that because of 7 bodies all flying into each other. I also felt very self-assured that I will tell my experiences of dating Kyle to the court and to the public, but keeping who I am private. I wrote a letter to the court where Kyle was at, and I wrote about the same time he assaulted me with the shattered glass of my phone that he threw. After this was read out in court, another woman who dated Kyle in 2022 also came forward about how she was a victim of domestic violence from Kyle. This warmed my heart because she felt inspired to tell her story as well, and that we will stick together through this. In the end, Kyle was found guilty of his domestic violence on me as well as the other women he dated, and for his drunk driving case too. After he was found guilty, he was sentenced to 2.5 years behind bars. In my honest opinion, that sentence is just way too short. It should be 20 years because of the 7 victims he unintentionally hit with the car and leaving most of them with lifetime injuries. He must have hired an amazing lawyer because of such a short sentencing. I have nothing but hatred for Kyle now after he changed my mother's life for the worse. People like him never change. I know I might be taking things out of proportion, but I'm never going to get over this, and this is how I really feel. While Kyle is serving his time in prison, I hope that he reflects on his actions that he did to hurt these people, and he goes to rehab where he changes as a person. My advice to him is that he needs to move out of New York City, which is a very toxic environment, and start a new life where he helps people instead of hurting them. For the people living in New York City, when Kyle gets out of prison and you see him on the street, please avoid him at all costs because you don't want to be his next victim. I'll start with some brief context. I had lived with an abusive male partner who didn't value my safety whatsoever. He got really mad if I didn't leave the door unlocked, and we lived in a not so great part of town. He was way older than me. I was barely 18 at the time and he was 26. Neither one of us owned a car. He worked at a Waffle House and I was getting sick constantly, so keeping a job really wasn't easy for me. He liked drugs and alcohol, and he really traumatized me in regards to both. Blamed me for his usage and would assault me while on it. Fun fact, He said if I reported his conduct, he would blame me because he was the one on the substance, even though he held me down and forced it, not me. I digress. When I finally got the courage to leave for the last time, I did it while he was at work. I begged my mom to help me get my necessities, stuff with emotional value and some clothes. Instead, she called the cops. There was a warrant for his arrest and she got a police escort just in case. Well, as soon as he got out, he immediately had started messaging me from different new numbers threatening to murder me and my family if I didn't go home with them. It didn't matter how much I blocked him, he kept at it. I was scared, but I thought for the most part I was safe. After all, he didn't have a car. I was wrong. About a week into this, he and his gun-owning friend showed up. He banged on the door and was screaming. His friend-owning gun is important to this story because he had repeatedly said that he and his friend would shoot us. My window was on the second floor facing the street, and my stomach dropped when he saw me. I immediately dropped and then army crawled to my little brother's room and then hid in the closet. His window faced the backyard. I guess my monkey brain felt safer there. I was the only one home and scared that if I breathed too loud, he'd hear me. I was terrified. I didn't want to call the police because my dumb self thought he'd hear that too. I silently texted my mom. The police arrived about 20 minutes after my mom said they were on their way. He and his friend were taken into custody after that same friend had gotten him out on bond. His friend did have a gun, but he didn't. Bottom line, I was able to get a restraining order. I'm strictly sober now, and definitely in therapy after all that, and I'm doing much better. This was the early 2000s. A lady told me about her laptop always draining the battery. The computer needed other things done to it. When I went to see her, the ex-boyfriend called her and asked if she was alone, who was there, accusing her of lies, cheating, and sleeping with other men. She hung up on him and seemed a bit rattled. She wanted to know if he could see through her camera on the computer. I checked and also disabled it because she never used it. I didn't see anything there. I opened it up to clean and checked the battery. I noticed this small device soldered to the battery terminals. It had a SIM card in it. I looked up the model and it was a tracking device. After she saw what I found out, all of her paranoia just flooded right out. She kept wondering how he knew where she was at all times, following her. He knew of conversations that she had with her friends and family. I checked her phone handset as well. A little black device, but it was a short-range recorder. At this point, I'm thinking this is a prank being played on me by some TV show or something, but her fear was genuine. I opened the alarm system box, camera recording DVR in there to a camera out the front she didn't ever know about. The camera was hidden in a fake painted brick. I said that she should call the police about this. And that's just it though. He is the police. The DVR had a hard drive in it. I plugged a screen and mouse into it. All of this was really expensive for 2003. It was installed 2 weeks ago and she broke up with him 4 months ago. The odd part was they were only together for 1 month. He never lived there, only visited. On the camera footage was him walking by several times at night. We followed a path of balding grass to a small garden shed she's not been in since she moved there. He had been living in there and outfitted the interior. He ran an Ethernet cable right into the house, power, microwave, and lots of caravan parts. A bed, a TV, a whole man cave, even a toilet which was fully functional because the shed was right next to the septic tank. He was actually in the stages of getting running water from a hose hidden under the house to the shed. Yeah, talk about crazy. Hi everyone, my name is Effy, and I'm a 29-year-old female from the UK, but I was 18 at the time this all happened. Now, before I get started, I just wanted to say I know my story isn't as creepy and scary as most, but it still scared the absolute hell out of me. So I was 18 years old at the time when I met my ex. For obvious reasons, I won't use his real name, so we'll just call him Adam. It was a Saturday night and me and my friends were all out drinking, going from bar to bar, just having a great time, and we ended up going to a nightclub to round our night off. I went out to the designated smoking area for a cigarette. I headed down the concrete stairs and into the caged area which was located at the side of the building, and I went to light my cigarette when I then realized, damn, no lighter. So I saw a guy who I grew up with in my village, and I asked him if he had a lighter. He said that he didn't, but his cousin does. And standing next to him was this quite tall, muscular man with dirty blonde hair and tattoos, and I was instantly attracted. He smiled and lit the lighter for me, so I lit my cigarette and we got to talking. He told me that he was 23 and he was a farmer. He asked me some things, you know, the normal stuff, and he told me that he thought I looked amazing. He asked me if he could buy me a drink, and of course I said yes. The night was going great. He bought me a drink and we exchanged numbers. I had to go home because I was working the next day, so I said goodbye and thanked him for the drink and then got a taxi home. I never expected to hear from him, so I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning to a text from Adam. I was super excited that this super hot guy was texting me, but remember, I was only 18. Anyway, we got texting back and forth until he had finally asked if I would like to meet up for a drink, just him and me. Like a date? I asked. Yes, a date, he replied. So we arranged a day and time to meet at the same nightclub that we had met at about 2 weeks before. I got dressed up, did my hair and makeup, and wore a tight-fitting white and navy dress and headed out. When I arrived at the club, he was nowhere to be seen. Weird, I thought. He was supposed to be meeting me at the door, so I texted him. No reply. I decided to call him and he answered. Like right away, I could hear the loud music and drunk people right away in the background. You guessed it, he'd gone inside without me. I was a little annoyed but thought nothing of it. I show the bouncer my ID and head inside. I go upstairs and start looking for him. I find him out of the smoking area chatting to some women. Now, this should have been the first red flag, but again, I was 18. I saw his looks and I was hooked, so I let it slide. Probably my biggest mistake. Anyway, he sees me and we head back in, had a few drinks, got to know each other a little better, and the night went off without a hitch. I really liked this guy. He was hot, built like a tank, and a real smooth talker. Fast forward a few weeks, and this is where things started to get weird. So by now we're dating, and he asked me if I wanted to stay over at his house for the first time, and I said yes. When we get there, the first thing I noticed is another car parked outside. We go inside, head into the kitchen, and to my shock, his mom and dad are sitting at their table. Yes, he failed to tell me that he still lived with his parents. So I was introduced, and Adam went outside with his dad while I was left inside with his mom. She was nice enough, but barely spoke a word to me. It was late afternoon and Adam had stayed outside with his dad and his mom joined them. So there I was left alone in this guy's house. I decided to head outside too. Don't know why I bothered as no one said a word to me until it was time to go to bed. Adam then said to me, "Are you coming?" So like a lost lamb, I followed him into the bedroom. Well, we ended up having sex and then he said to me before we fell asleep, "Oh, by the way, I need to take you home at 5 a.m. I'm working in the morning." Then he goes to sleep, not another word said. So I closed my eyes and went to sleep too. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is just a story about a guy who was using you. It's not even creepy. Well, I'm about to tell you what really scared me about him. Those were just the red flags that I really should have paid attention to at the beginning. One day we were at his house, just the two of us. We were in the kitchen, and he was making a cup of coffee. We were just chatting about random things when all of a sudden he grabs me by the throat and then pins me against the wall with full rage in his eyes. Now, I'm only 4'11", and he was about 6 foot and built like a tank. So he had pinned me against the wall by my throat and he was serious. He looked so angry and his eyes were empty when he then said, "One good hard squeeze and you're done. Are you scared?" I was absolutely terrified, but I didn't want to show it. He just stayed like that for about a minute. When he finally lets go, he starts laughing. Yes, laughing, like it was some sort of joke. I waited 10 minutes and told him that I wasn't feeling well, and I got him to take me home. I wish that I could say that was the only incident, but it wasn't. Whenever we would go out, he would bring his mates and spend all night with them. I would be following along like a little sheep, but if he saw me talking to another guy, just friendly talk mind you, or another guy even looked at me, he would stare at me in front of his friends, embarrassing the crap out of me and making me feel like I was nothing. Or I would tell him I was hanging out with my friends, and he would text me later the same night asking me, "Hey, what are you doing?" I would tell him I was out with my friends, and he would say that I never told him that, and that I'm lying to him. He would say that I'm not where I was, and that he knows I was with another guy. I literally never was. All of my friends were female. Again, another red flag, right? I ignored them again until a few months later. This is when Adam really scared the living hell out of me. So he had finally had his own place at this point, and it was on the new farm where he worked. Now, when I say this place was in the middle of nowhere, it was literally in the middle of nowhere. You had to drive for about 15 to 20 minutes through a one-way small country road, which was more like a forest. So we got there, we watched a movie, and you guessed it, ended up in bed. Well, afterwards I wanted a cigarette, and it was pitch black out by this point. So I got my clothes on and went outside into the backyard. You could barely see anything but a couple of feet in front of you because of the badly lit porch light. So I'm smoking away when all of a sudden something catches my eye. It's a tree stump with a red hatchet sticking out of it. Well, bearing in mind it was dark and in the middle of nowhere, I was kind of startled, all sorts of things running through my head. That's when Adam comes out and catches me looking at it. He walks over to the hatchet, pulls it out, and starts walking slowly towards me. And as he gets closer, he put the hatchet to my neck and says, "You know, I could kill you right now and no one would ever hear you scream. I could chop you up into tiny little pieces and feed you to the pigs and no one would ever find you." He stares at me like he was actually about to stick that damn hatchet in my neck, but he didn't. Instead, he pulled the hatchet away from me and his face changed. He started laughing maniacally and hysterically again. What the actual hell? By this point, I'm so scared I didn't know what to do, so I just started laughing along with them. We go back inside and he makes me a coffee. I sip it for about 10 minutes and tell him that I have to work in the morning and I would really appreciate it if he took me home, and he did. I ended up blocking his number and all of his social media accounts as soon as I got home. There was no way I was going to stay in a relationship with someone like that, someone that crazy. I think we all know that I wouldn't be here right now if I did. I'm just thankful he didn't actually harm me that night. I know most of you will be thinking he was just playing around. I would too, but you weren't there. You didn't see the blank look in his eyes when he did this. I actually thought he was going to kill me. I'm 29 now, have a 9-year-old daughter, and I'm more cautious when choosing the men that I let into my life. I heard last year that during the time I dated him, he was using some hard drugs, so he wasn't in his right mind. I'm sharing the story in hopes some young women will recognize the signs like I did just before it's too late. For privacy reasons, I'm going to call myself Emma and my ex Daniel. I met my ex Daniel off a popular friends app. At the time, I was pretty heartbroken and I wasn't really looking for anything. We lived about an hour away from each other. We spoke here and there, but there really wasn't anything there. One time I ended up in a city, so we met and it all just started from there. Now looking back, I was young and dumb. I had a bad relationship with boys, so when he did less than the bare minimum, I stuck with it. We got on like a house on fire, and after a few meetings, we ended up confessing that we liked each other. However, I didn't want a relationship. He did ask me out, but I didn't want a relationship because of my past experiences. After some time, we started getting into really bad arguments, and at this point, my mental health was really bad. So after a few arguments and not being able to fix it for my own sake, I left. However, it played on my heart a lot. After a few months, I saw it was his birthday, and I was really thinking about him, so I decided to message him happy birthday. And from there on, we met and we actually officially started dating. Now, after a few weeks, it goes back to old times and we start arguing bad again. Bear in mind, we had met at the start of the year, and now this is getting towards summertime. However, at this point, I feel guilty for leaving as I thought I didn't give it a good enough try. So when I should have left, I stayed due to guilt. Big mistake. Towards the end of our relationship, I would have to beg him to come out to see me. Remember how I said that we lived an hour away? I would always end up going to meet him and I'd still have to beg him to come. One time we met, he was so awful to me, I actually nearly started crying. I know that I should have left. At this point, he was actually going to his home country for the summer, and this was when it was getting really bad. After he went, I decided enough was enough. It was toxic, and he was getting more and more uncomfortable and treating me like crap, and I talked to him, but he just didn't care. I loved him way too much to leave, but after he left, I decided to break up with him. Radio silence. Months and months pass by until I get a random message request. I look at the profile and I automatically assume it's a bot. However, the message is someone's bank details. I check their following and the only person they follow is my ex. Immediate red flag. I message them what's going on. Who is this? No answer. Curiosity hits me and I decide to message my ex and he shrugs it off. After some time, the account messages back. Now for reference, let me call her Amelia. Amelia name drops my ex and then says, "Do you know what sort of person Daniel really is? He takes girls to his house and then dumps them. Pretty nice, right?" At this point, me and Daniel have been broken up for a few months, so I don't care and proceed to tell her, but curiosity really kicks in, and I ask her how long it's been. She says that she's been involved with them since the start of the year. Suddenly, it all makes sense. I ask for proof and she delivers. I confronted Daniel and he couldn't care less. He shrugged it off and said, "Did I cheat? My bad, I guess." Barely even comprehending that my ex was cheating on me the entire time we spoke, Amelia starts having a breakdown saying she's going to kill herself, etc. How he will pay for what he did using her because they were never official. He never even complimented her or said that he loved her or even asked her out. With me, he did that several times. She even said how he saw her for lust. After some time, I realize Amelia is clearly unhinged and just wants him back even after finding out she was the other woman and that he had a girlfriend the entire time. I end up losing my crap with Amelia because it ends up getting to be too much for me dealing with her outbursts when I barely had time to process. I was the one who got cheated on, yet I was dealing with her mess. Stupidly, after some time when Amelia went ghost, I went back to Daniel because I missed him. Side note, we did not date. Just had a few meetups. We were still arguing at this point, and one time we had such a bad argument because I realized that he took advantage of me that no matter what, I'd always go back. This man made me relapse and would call me every name under the sun and treated me like pure crap. And here's me like some clown just always running back, and I know it now. I was self-aware and I said I'd never see him again. You know what triggered my cold response? Him saying that he had no remorse for what he did and mockingly thanking me for being a part of it and being so unaware. Funnily enough, after this argument, he had asked to meet. I said sure for closure. This was the last time we met. He was in one of his moods again, and at this point he came down to the hour to meet me. Rare, I know. Afterwards, we waited for his bus, and when his bus came, he left without a word. I had to pass his bus to get to where I needed to, and I still remember the look on his face. He was smirking. After I went home, I blocked him on everything, and I didn't look back. It's been nearly 2 months now. There's so much missed out on this. So much pain, so much hurt. I still love him. He was my first love, even though he was so awful. A few days ago, my friend found him on the same app. He messaged her hitting on her. Normally, I wouldn't be bothered, but he knew who she was. In fact, he met her with me once or twice. He knew her face and name, and he deliberately did this just to hurt me. I still don't know why he treated me so awful. I'm still healing from this. My name is Molly. I'm 22 and I think I might have avoided dating a murderer. This started about a month ago. I found out my new ex-boyfriend was cheating on me and dumped him after finding out. There were also other things that led up to this, but this was the final nail in the coffin for this relationship. His excuse for cheating on me was that he wasn't over the death of his first wife, which doesn't make any sense at all, and I'm going to get into her death. While my ex and I were dating, he told me that his first wife passed away due to depression 2 years prior. You can all gather what that means. And of course, this really pulled at my heartstrings, and I felt for him. He then told me that his best friend did the same thing exactly 2 months later. Pretty weird, right? At the time, I thought this was strange, but didn't lean more into it out of respect for my ex and the trauma that it caused. Having my own struggles with that, I didn't want to question it further. But after breaking up with him, things aren't making any sense. Firstly, he told me 2 completely different stories as to the methods and how they offed themselves. The way he told me that his wife did it the first time he told me is physically impossible. If you all know Kurt Cobain's story, put 2 and 2 together minus the drugs. In the back of my mind, I knew it'd be impossible, especially since it happened in a car as well. I decided to ask him about it one day, and he was irate that I would even question it. He also told me that he never said it was a .22, that it was a pistol instead. Now, I'll admit I'm forgetful, but details like that you don't just forget. I asked him why he'd tell me it was a .22 and not a pistol, and he said that he misspoke and did not bring it up again. That set alarm bells for me. Why? Because he was an avid gun guy. He's someone that can take apart a gun he's never touched or fired and put it back together again. So why would he simply say it was one type when it was a completely different gun entirely? Now his best friend. He told me that the autopsy revealed that there were ligature marks around the neck, with a talk screen off the charts but internal bruising. If you've seen my posts before, you'll know that I'm a mortician's kid with a degree in criminal justice in hopes of working in crime scene. So I'm not ignorant to suspicious things like this. I again tell him that it's odd, and again he gets pissed, telling me that I'm stupid, that I don't know what I'm talking about, and to not bring it up again. I don't know if I'm overthinking it or something else, but I don't have a good feeling about any of this. I've started looking into all of this further, and I'm going to talk to some of my old professors who are in law enforcement about what they think. This story is still ongoing. Update. It's been a few months and I've delved into looking into the death of his first wife. I was able to find her obituary, where I found out she wasn't even living with him at the time of her death. Instead, she was living in their home state the entire time. I did the math and he had traveled up to that state the weekend before she passed away. He traveled back to the state he was living in the day after she had died too. Then I also remembered that he had told me before that he had made his own mother clean out the car after his wife did what she did. Usually there are people who clean scenes like that since it's dealing with biological waste, human remains, so on and so forth. He then told me that he never saw a reason to get a crime scene cleanup crew to clean up the car when his own mother was perfectly capable of doing it. I'm not sure if it's just me, but my mother would never do that for me, especially if it was her daughter-in-law who had offed herself in the car. His first wife's family also refuses to speak with him and will not allow him on their premises. He cremated her too, after telling me that she never wanted to be, but that he just couldn't part with her. See what I mean? He also sold the car to a scrap lot a week after, therefore ridding himself of the car and sort of proving my point that there's really something fishy about her whole death. I also found out more about his best friend. He had posted a TikTok in memory of him, but the comments that I saw, his mother was telling him that he had no right to post the video and to take it down. He deleted the TikTok right after the family had started commenting on it. I never got the chance myself to see all of the comments, but the ones I did see were angry and disgusted that he would even post such a thing. The last thing is that he married the woman that he was cheating on me with. They only knew each other 2 months before she moved away with him and married his sorry ass, her 2 kids in tow. He's also creepily close to her minor daughter. Like, I've been told by other people that he would sleep on the couch with her cuddled up. I've done research on that as well, and I found out that the state they moved to has a consent age of 16. You can draw conclusions from that as well. I don't know. I still have a really bad gut feeling about this man. I'm keeping tabs on him and his wife now, but I think they're both watching my Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram accounts from ghost accounts. Every now and then I'll get a comment from a random account with no videos or pictures on it, saying weird and concerning things. I really don't know what to think. Hey everyone, hope you all enjoyed today's stories. Consider stopping by on my Kick streams sometimes. Now that I've officially face revealed, I'm streaming multiple times a week on Kick. And yeah, it'd be pretty cool to have you there. It's a pretty fun time, so consider stopping by. Anyways, hope you all have a good day. And remember to always stay